from that box in the middle of nowhere, this is Around Midnight. You got the local boys right here. I am Joe Carbonetta, alongside Chevelle Devine and Todd Fluker. And tonight is Friday, November the 10th of 2017. And we've got a fantastic show. How are you guys doing tonight?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Bold statement saying it's going to be a fantastic show already.
Wow, okay.
Oh. It is kind of early in the
Apparently Fluker's in a bad mood to begin with today.
Still recovering from my
Blue flu?
unpleasantness.
The blue flu.
Wait, what?
That's what we called it, the blue flu.
No, it was the blue blues flu.
Oh, that's right, the blue blues flu.
Is that like a Smurf thing?
We knew that you were so distraught over the Dodgers losing the series that you actually had to take a short vacation from the show.
What was that one episode of the Smurfs when they all got like that weird disease and they started biting each other and they were saying "Gnap"?
What? What are you talking
You
about?
don't remember that one?
We're not a full minute into the show and he's already going off on strange.
Maybe I
things that
still
make
got
no
the
sense.
blue flu, but you know they were like "Gnap, Gnap."
I have no idea what he's talking about. None. You know what? We are live. It's 9. I told you that thing was going to go off. The mysterious alarm that usually signifies the end of the show now goes off at the beginning of the show because daylight savings time has officially ended. It's either that or the studio's about to self-destruct. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Todd, are you all right back there?
I'm leaning toward the studio self-destructing.
Oh, all right. Todd found it. Yeah. So anyway, the thing that was signaling the end of the studio has been disabled. Good.
Wow, that
on
thing
you.
is way
Todd,
off.
Did you
Does
cut
it really
the?
say it's midnight?
Did
right
you
now?
cut the red wire, Todd?
I cut all the wires.
Okay. All right.
It says it's midnight, so it's actually around midnight. Right?
Oh my goodness! Yeah, look at that. That's in some time zone. I don't know what
Midnight.
time zone it is, but
I don't know.
there you go. That's it.
It's our commemorative midnight clock.
Anyway, all right. We are live. 951-356-6882. That's the number to call. 951-356-6882. You can also get a hold of us on Twitter. You can get to me at Joe Carbonetta and Todd at Todd Fluker and Chevelle at Chevelle Devine.
You know,
And-
like Twitter normally works.
Yeah,
at
pretty
your
much.
name.
At your name. That's it. And
Wait,
also,
are you supposed to type your name?
Yeah. Just
Oh.
type in at your name and it'll just put whoever you're thinking of.
Oh, cool.
yeah, okay. And also, you can reach us at mixified@gmail.com.
Or at your favorite show.
At your favorite show. I don't know. No, I don't know if I want to tell them that. This might not be their favorite show, in which case
Bite
all
your
their
tongue.
comments will go
Bite
someplace else.
your tongue.
So, yeah, give us a call tonight. We are standing ready to take your call and
Yeah, we're
talk to you.
totally
And,
sitting
and,
down. We are not standing. We're hardly ready. So this is full of lies from the start. You started by saying it was going to be an amazing show. And from there, you just keep piling and You should run for president. Just full of false promises.
Oh, wait a minute. This coming from Chump? Is he actually taking shots at the president
Just
now?
saying.
What happened to you?
Just saying.
Something bad happened to you over the
Come
week
on,
that we
man.
don't know about?
You know I don't
were
like
you finally,
any politician.
Were you finally let down by Trump?
No, actually, I haven't heard much from him at all recently. What's going on? He's like,
He's been overseas eating teriyaki or something.
I guess he no longer holds the what's the word I'm looking for?
Don't know.
He's no longer in charge of the conversation on like sexual aggression because that's kind of was his thing.
Oh, okay. Well, speaking of such things, we would be remiss if we didn't go into the continuing and ever-expanding universe of scandal in Hollywood.
We need to come up with a bite for that. Scandal in Hollywood.
Well,
Something
maybe
like
we'll
that.
work on that after the show, and we can have that for next week. Because I'm sure that something else is going to come out.
Yeah,
Of,
this
I was
thing
going
is
to say
gonna
out of the
keep on
closet,
going.
but I don't know if that was such a good
Probably
euphemism.
not the best use of time.
Although, if we move right into Kevin Spacey after that, it may
I think that's perfectly apt.
might work pretty
It
well.
literally forced him out of the closet.
Touche.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. So we were just talking about this at the top of the show. Actually, before the top of the show, CJ, you were discussing the latest inflammatory news to embroil Kevin Spacey. You want to elaborate on that now?
It's just he's another in a long lineage of people who've been accused of abuse in Hollywood. He was accused of molesting a young boy. Well, older boy. I don't know.
Yeah,
What was
well-
it?
Attempted?
Okay.
Do you call
It's
it attempted?
alleged. It's alleged at this
Alleged.
point.
Alleged and
Yeah.
alleged attempt. Because
Yeah. Well, and then this is all getting rolled into that whole conversation about the Hollywood casting couch.
Well, but the latest news that you were discussing was the fact that there is discussion now. They're going to
Yes.
bring charges against him.
They're investigating that possibility. If these alleged things are true, then it's a criminal act because he was a minor, number one, and if it was not consensual, that compounds it. So.
Well, here's the part that I find interesting. It's ironic that they would bring charges against him before they managed to actually charge Weinstein.
or our president.
Well, I mean, in the hierarchy of power, Weinstein and the president both have more power than Spacey. Spacey pretends he has power on TV, though, or
I
at least
see.
he did until they pulled his show.
Yeah, his show has been canceled. Gosh, nobody wants to do business with him at all.
Lost a lot.
It's the new blacklist in
Yeah.
Hollywood.
Why has it got to be a blacklist?
Oh, here we. The minute I said it, I knew you were going to turn around and say. And
I saw the funny meme. It said that we're holding our imaginary president, Spacey, up to a higher standard than our real presidents.
yeah.
that's interesting. That's,
Well, I was working on a show, the new City Beat. You guys remember City Beat, yeah?
well,
They
yeah.
brought it back.
For those in the audience who don't know
Yeah.
what City Beat is, would you like to explain that?
Well, City Beat is a show that was done in the city of Pasadena for years. That usually had one of the local politicians on, local, state, and national politicians, and they would discuss issues relevant to the city. That was run by the government's channel. Now it's actually over into the public channel, so they're opened up for a broader discussion. And one of the things they brought up was this topic, and one of the points that was made was just that: when is this going to make its way up to the top to Trump? There were a couple other points made. One was that the one thing that does not get talked about a whole lot in this whole Kevin Spacey specifically is the fact that they didn't talk about the criminal charges. Like because he used it as an opportunity to come out as gay, he actually got a little bit of flack from the gay community. And I think part of that might be because they don't want to be tied to pedophilia, which is one of the arguments people always use against gay people, like, oh, they're a bunch of pedophiles. So he's using pedophilia as his coming out tool, which
and that's
ties those things together in a way that
people
no one
immediately
likes.
jumped on him for that he was linking these two communities together.
well, he was
that
somehow
had
using
no
it as an
business.
excuse.
Yeah, he was like trying to garner some sympathy
Yeah,
in
not the way to do it.
coming out at this time when he is being attacked. But yeah, all it did was get him more hate.
Yeah, I can understand where that comes from, because there are a lot of gay people who are very, very cautious when that, especially because you get a lot of people who are less than knowledgeable about the community that want to attach pedophilia instantly, and then they don't want to make that same thing for somebody like even Weinstein, who I'm sure must have had one or two minors in there, or Clinton, who's been accused of that, the former President Clinton.
Whoa, these are
I'm
some
saying.
bold accusations.
Or if you want to go way back into Hollywood, you can take it all the way. You can go way back to the 40s and 50s. You had jumping the guy whose balls were on fire. What's his name? Married his
What?
cousin or something like that. I think Elvis
Oh,
Presley.
you mean
his wife was underage when he met her?
Yeah. Technically, he was. The one you're talking about is.
It's not Chuck Berry.
No, it's not. Gosh, why can't I not remember his name? What you're talking about is the song "Great Balls of Fire."
Yeah, exactly. Ironic that would be his song. I digress. But yes, so that was a really stupid move on his part to
and
try
that's
to
what
use
people have been
that
saying.
as an out.
You know, that's the argument people were coming up with, and that whole transgender bathroom thing was coming up. It's like, I don't want my kid going into the bathroom and there's gonna be some weirdo, creepy guy, and you're like, just because they're transgender doesn't immediately make them some kind of sexual predator, pedophile.
Kelly said Jerry Lewis, but it was
Yeah,
Jerry
Jerry Lee Lewis.
Jerry
Yeah,
Lee
that's
Lewis
right.
to be specific. Jerry Lewis is a different.
Yeah, that's hey, lady.
Maybe true for him too. We don't know yet.
Dare you speak ill of the dead?
So flip. Here's an interesting flip on this, though. Spacey starts saying, "Oh well, I'm gay," and that's his explanation, I guess, in trying to either deflect or excuse his behavior. On the flip side of that, the latest person to be embroiled in the scandal is that comedian Louis C.K. And all this stuff apparently had been floating around in the ether for a long time. There had been rumors that he was doing this stuff, but nobody would come right out and say it until now, when everybody's coming out of the woodwork and talking about how he was doing the deed on himself while looking at these female comedians and so on and so forth. But his defense was to just come right out and admit that it was true.
Huh. I got to respect that. I mean, I don't appreciate the act, but I do appreciate him not being a punk about it.
Yeah, I guess. But, well, however, in so saying, he admitted it was true that he did these things. He said he had no idea that it was causing so much anguish for the victims.
That he's yanking the pickle while they're up on stage?
Well, no, he would bring them into rooms and do this in private, but
And
basically force them to
That's
endure
what
it.
he was saying, is that he was kind of claiming ignorance about the
how
whole
do
thing.
you not know
But-
this is going to affect somebody?
But see, that's the issue, is that he wasn't just whipping it out and being like, check it out, ladies. He was treating it as a somewhat consensual act. He was asking for permission. He asked these people, but it's the fact that he was in a position of power over this person that they felt the need to
Yeah, but did he
acquiesce.
actually ask them? And even if he did, is it really consent when they simply don't say no?
Is that
See, well,
is
no,
that
that's
not
that's
the
where-
definition of consent?
Yeah, I mean,
The person said yes.
Did they say yes, or did they just not say anything?
I feel like the stories I've heard is he asked, they say, they don't say, they certainly don't
Yeah,
say
okay,
no,
you
they
said it
say
yourself.
yes.
See, they don't say no. That's not the
They
same as
say-
saying
yeah, but
yes.
I mean,
Well,
see,
no,
here's I have a problem with that, and this is part of the reason why, again, I applaud him for sucking up to it, owning up
really?
to it. I applaud him for owning up to it. It's
hell are you talking
it's certainly a sad and I don't want to even say that. It's it is what it is. I was going to say it's sad and pathetic, but he's not the only one. This happens to all kinds of people. This happens to people without money. This happens to people with money. The thing is, when you are in control of the environment, there is a way that people don't feel safe to say no,
Okay.
because you are on their territory. So this kind of goes to a whole different conversation. I don't think we can have it now, but people really got to be a lot more careful about the kind of situations they allow themselves to get into. I mean, it's one thing to be nabbed off the street and taken off somewhere. It's another thing when you are just trying to be a part of this community, this, I'm going to be with the famous funny people or the famous movie stars, and you put yourself in a position where you're literally putting yourself into a position.
Well, but see, then this goes back to the greater discussion: is how many people knew that they were putting themselves into this position, but were willing to take the risk and endure the whatever the treatment, just so they could look out for number one and get themselves where they wanted to go.
And this actually, man, you could have like a psychologist would have a field day arguing this one back and forth. But it's almost like how you have certain things that are handed down throughout families, certain traits, certain behaviors and whatnot, how children of alcoholics are more likely to be alcoholics, so on and so forth. The same thing could be said in professional environments. When you're in a particular type of environment, you're more likely to repeat that type of thing. And I think that's where Hollywood is finding itself now, because this is not something new. In fact, you could take it all the way back probably to the thespian days of Shakespeare.
Again, yeah, I mean, this probably goes on for forever, for as long as there's been entertainment. But again, the question becomes, how is it that these people were basically willing to sell their souls to get to the top?
Well, not everybody believes that they have a soul. And also fear. You simply cannot underestimate the power of fear. And you can't underestimate the power of power,
But
because when you're dealing with
fear-
people who are in a position of power,
Fear of what, though? Fear of bodily harm, or fear of just not being successful in the entertainment industry?
All of the above. I mean, it ranges the whole.
And yet, I've never heard
gambit.
any of these people say that they felt physically threatened. None of them ever suggested that they didn't. That they thought that they were going to end up in a trench somewhere by the side of the freeway if they spoke out.
If the president of the United States is coming up to you talking about
Grabbing you in your
Copperfield and grabbing on you, yeah, you're going to be like, if I don't let this guy, that Secret Service guy's going to put two in the back of my head.
That's an interesting.
whether
That's
or
an
not the
interesting
fear
theory. I
is
don't think that's
justified-
actually the case,
I
but
don't- and this gets to
Allegedly.
allegedly, yeah.
Well, I mean, and this kind of gets to the mentality of victims, because when you start to say what you just said, there's a very thin line between that and, well, she was wearing these clothes. She clearly was advertising, because people are going to say you put yourself in these positions. Some people are just oblivious to where they find themselves.
Well,
and there's also the whole grooming aspect of this, which I don't think people are really talking about too much. because people like this, they don't just go and grab some random person off the street. Typically, this is something that they've developed some form of relationship with, and then they just kind of put them in this awkward position.
Yeah, well, again, I'm not really faulting people for getting themselves in, but once it's happened to them, for them to just keep their mouths shut like it didn't happen because they're afraid it's going to jeopardize their ascension into, entertainment stardom, that's the part that really confuses me.
But you don't have that desire. That's not you. You're not the type of person who wants to be, standing up there. I want to thank so and so for my Oscar. That's not you.
Well, if that ever happened to me, that'd be great. But I'm not willing to sell my soul to get there. It's not at all costs.
I don't think even it's just selling your soul. It's just because a lot of these people are people who have, since they've been children, have wanted to be famous. They took all the theater classes all through junior high, high school, college, and other stuff.
Okay,
and then
well,
they
when
come
you
out
put it
to
like that,
Hollywood
you're right.
on a
I've never
dream.
done that.
So they've got a lot invested in this, and for all of that to be thrown away because they don't want to sit in a room with this one person for 15 minutes while they're choking the chicken.
And I can understand that there's to a certain extent, after the fact, you're like, it's already over and done with. What good really is it going to do to come forward? It's just going to be a big pain in the ass for me, for the most part.
Yep.
When I have to go and fill out some police reports, or I could benefit from my new relationship from this powerful person.
The good that it would do would be to prevent it from happening to somebody else. When you're hearing the same rumors and you're like, "Wow, that happened to me too."
People are
obviously
selfish.
this isn't just
But
a
I don't
one-off.
believe that's true, because I think that what we're seeing now with Hollywood is kind of the same thing we're seeing now with the police violence against minorities. It wasn't something people believed until they started seeing it on Facebook and people doing live Snapchats and whatnot. And it's the same thing. I think social media has put a lot of this stuff and exposed it in a way that before it was just hearsay, because it wasn't really getting covered in the media, and it still doesn't get covered in the media until somebody tweets out so-and-so did such and such. So the media has been in reaction mode for a long time. They're not really doing the deep investigative stuff anymore. They don't have the power in their newsrooms to do that at all. They're not doing the deep investigative stuff on politics. When you turn to CNN, they're always talking about what so-and-so tweeted or what they saw on such and such's Facebook page.
So you're suggesting then that everybody was afraid of being labeled like Corey Feldman. And
exactly.
So that's
and Corey
why
Feldman
nobody
is
wanted to say
a
anything
prime
about
example. He was blacklisted, and it ultimately led to his death. That was the reason he gave for why he was committing suicide.
Huh. Okay.
And the other Corey Haim actually talked about that.
Yeah.
Because him and Corey Feldman had talked about that. Both of them had gone through this, and he felt like Haim had kind of turned on him. So it's a real thing, and I think now it's getting exposed. And there's I don't remember. I think it was you sent it. You've got this kind of domino effect, but this thing goes back a long time, and it's starting to accelerate.
Speaking of which, I found it. I'm really going to go on record as saying I found it kind of amusing that even Mariah Carey has not escaped this, and she's now like the first female star to actually have people claim a sexual harassment situation.
Well, didn't Paula Abdul have that same situation?
Where people were accusing her of sexually harassing people?
I don't know if it was a dance or something like that, but yeah, it's a thing. It's a real thing. And there's another side of this that's not being covered. Right now, we've seen men aggression toward women. We've seen men toward men. It's only a matter of time before we start seeing more women talking about how there are women who were sexually
Well, that's what
aggressive.
I'm saying. This is the situation with Mariah Carey. Yeah. She's now under threat of lawsuit from a former bodyguard who claims that she, on numerous occasions, disrobed in front of him and made sexually explicit remarks.
I get that, but I'm talking about women saying other women attack them. That's the next. That's
the
the next
shoe
to
to
drop.
What you're saying. Okay, so it's interesting. Okay, but. This goes back to something that we were talking about the other day when we were talking about sexual harassment. Is there any guy, if it weren't for the fact that there's probably a large payday to be gained by accusing Mariah Carey, would any guy actually accuse her of sexual harassment?
Or would you not just call that a good day?
Exactly. I wasn't going to put it in those terms, but since you went there, Todd.
Yeah.
I would. She's pretty fine.
Hey, why not have a good day and the payday?
Okay, but I don't think you can get away with that in court. Then it becomes I don't know.
It becomes illegal because it's prostitution.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking.
What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
I was also just interested. I remember hearing about Terry Crews and about how he actually did end up naming the person who assaulted him. And I was like, oh, actually, I got to look that up and see who this guy is. It's some guy named Adam Venett, the head of motion picture department at WME. So I guess he's a high-powered...
And I think that this is kind of in that same Weinstein vein, because one of the things that has been discussed in Hollywood a lot is that part of the reason this atmosphere is so present is because the people that are running the studios and running the entertainment companies are the ones that are fostering this environment.
But see, that's the thing, I think, with this domino effect, this Harvey Weinstein domino effect, maybe we will actually see some change.
By the way, I have to make a correction here because you got the names confused. Corey Feldman is still alive. He's the one that I was referring to.
Right.
Corey Haim is the one who committed suicide. Feldman is the one who's been talking about how he was sexually abused during his young acting days, and everybody blacklisted him.
Yeah.
And now, by the way, the LAPD is actually starting to investigate some of the claims that he's been making for going on 15, 20 years now.
Yeah.
So
because he's the one who was pointing a finger at Charlie Sheen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Who
some
clearly
nasty
has
business.
some issues, man. I mean, the guy...
Tiger blood.
Yeah. There's talk that was him basically announcing he had HIV. Saying that he had tiger blood.
Okay. Well, that might be.
Well, he does. Yeah, that came out as a fact.
That he is
is
HIV
HIV
positive.
he is
Yeah,
HIV
he is.
positive.